It's the Suncast podcast, covering the Sun Conference and all its sports.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into another episode of Suncast. My name is Reagan Harrell. That man is Manny Burrows. Manny, it's a busy time of the year. It's a fun time of the year. Obviously, you've been doing an amazing job running things on Suncast. I hope everybody's enjoying that. And, of course, Manny's going to keep doing that, doing his thing, and I'll be coming on. Obviously, when we get into the fall next year, I'll be around a lot more. Over the next couple of weeks, on some point of the episode, everybody kind of know my future plan, what I have going on. I'll just say at this point, definitely looking to stay around with Suncast after I graduate here in a couple of weeks, with my bachelor's from Weber International University. But I'll say this, Suncast is 100% not going anywhere. We can put those rumors, put those talks to rest. I know, obviously, I'm in an NAISB. That's a big organization that I met at the head of, doing my thing with that. But I'm still here with Suncast in the fall. We'll be right back. Manny, you're still gonna be around in August?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sticking around for at least another year.
There we go. All right. So anything we can do to kind of put that to rest, stop those talks, we can go ahead and stop that. But Manny, I want to start this episode off with a question. I guess we'll kind of talk about the episode first. We're going to talk baseball, softball, women's lacrosse, a little bit of beach volleyball, and flag football. So that's five sports. That's five sports we're playing right now in spring. Manny, my question to you is, the Sun Conference can win a red banner this year in how many of those five sports?
I believe the baseline is 3, and I think we can get up to 4. I don't know if you can go 5 for 5, but I do think 3 is a safe bet, and 4 is where I would love to really see that number end up.
I mean, I want to get in your head and in your reasoning behind that. So you say definitely 3, maybe 4. What's the criteria you're looking for? Well, dang, little bar. My bad. Didn't mean to do that. I mean, I have a bar this early in the morning, but Manny. Oh, also one more thing. We have a guest on this episode, correct?
We do. Yes, we do.
Introduce people real quick.
We're gonna have the lacrosse coach at Ave Maria, Coach Sherman. We're gonna be talking a little bit of lacrosse with them, talking about what the season's been going. A great season for lacrosse, and one of those teams that I think could be one of those sports, I should say, that could be in the red banner hunt and safely in it. To be honest with you, they're
Sure.
one. I think flag football is another one for sure.
Yep.
Everybody's gonna point at baseball with Southeastern and the way you and those Warriors have been just going through the entire season so far. So I think that's where those 3 are like, I'm safe. I'm safe in
Sure.
understanding where they're gonna be at. Beach volleyball.
And when you say safe, it's like, when you say safe, it's like we have a team or multiple teams firmly in the top 5. Beach volleyball in top 10 with Weber at 7, Ave Maria at 5. Obviously, we're littering the top 5, top 10 to baseball. How many in lacrosse? What, 3 teams in the top 5?
I think 3, maybe no, 4 in the top 5. No, top 5 is 3, and then we have another one, top 10. I believe Ave is at 10, and then we got 2 receiving votes. It's just we're going all over the place when it comes to the rankings right now, and we love to see it, honestly.
And I mean, we'll talk more about flag football later on, but you look at that sport. I mean, it's always been the Ottawa Braves, Ottawa Braves, Ottawa Braves. Look, they'll be there in Atlanta at the end of the season for sure. But I feel like as a conference, we have reached their level and they've come back to earth a little bit, and we've seen that with having a very good record this year against the Braves. And you look at teams like Warner, look at teams like Kaiser. Weber's very good. St. Thomas is very good. Obviously, the Thomas Nighthawks are going to be there at the end of the year. It's like, okay, now the Sun Conference has kind of gotten not officially, still got to beat them in the postseason, but it just feels like we've gotten that Ottawa Braves monkey off our back in the sport of flag football.
No, exactly. And kind of like the question you talked about earlier with the criteria, for me, when I talk about the criteria, it's more of a situation where do we have the numbers to send for that red banner hunt?
Sure.
Obviously, in baseball right now, we only have two, and it's no secret. It's going to be Southeastern and you and the Warber Warriors. But then, like we mentioned, lacrosse and flag football just now, we have so many teams that are going to be there. It's a situation where we have 4 or 5 against the field. I have us winning those 4 or 5 situations. And then that last one that it's a little up in the air, unfortunately, would be softball, but that's just because, again, we don't know how many teams will actually make it to the opening rounds, make it past that. We know Coastal Georgia's going to be there. They've been top 25 all year. Southeastern's been on the cusp of receiving votes. Same thing with St. Thomas. And Kaiser's kind of on the outskirts right now looking in. But yeah, those 4 teams could make it to opening round situation, maybe, but it's just we don't know how many of those teams will make it past that point.
Right. I think so. Let's look at the 3 sports we're definitely pretty firmly in, like we've talked about. We'll put beach volleyball aside, and you'll find out why here in just a minute. So, I believe with baseball, it's probably the third most likely, believe it or not, for us to win a red banner. The reason for that, there's some really, really good teams out there right now, and both Weber and Southeastern have proven to be beatable this year. Now, so have Georgia Gwinnett, so have LSU Shreveport, so have the Cumberland's Patriots, and so has LC State, who I view as the main competition for Weber and for Southeastern this year. Now, there's some other phenomenal teams. If you want to go a deep dive in all of NAIA baseball, NAIA ball, go holler at Taylor and Tyler do a great job covering all those sports. Or, I'm sorry, all those teams in the sport of baseball. But looking at our 2 teams, I'm just looking at the pitching staff, and I do believe there's 3 teams in NAI baseball that are really kind of separated. Maybe a fourth in Georgia Gwinnett. They've got some great pitching too. But I look at Weber's pitching staff. I look at Southeastern's pitching staff. And then for yourselves, y'all can go kind of look up LSU Shreveport, who's unreal. And now, numbers wise, there are other teams that compete, but go look at the schedules. Go look at the schedules, and then kind of get back to me with how these teams are looking and shaping up. But and look, this kind of goes into the next discussion as far as numbers. Go find me 2 better pitchers than Darian Smith and Blaine Huter right now. I don't think you're going to be able to. That's an argument we can have with other conferences and other teams. But I'm going to tell you, Darian Smith and Blaine Huter, I think they're combined 20 for 20 on quality starts. That's unreal. I think they both got like 10 apiece. Darian, just according to Sun Conference stats, he's 8-0, 8 and freaking 0 with a 1.62, 78 strikeouts, 12 walks. You look over at Blaine Huter, 1.98. He's got one less win than Darian Smith. And let's not forget, if Weber doesn't blow that first game against Southeastern, now Blaine's got another win on his record, one of them being Southeastern, because he did his part in that one. He's got 2 complete game shutouts, 59 innings pitched, 13 walks, 68 strikeouts. The most backward Ks in the Sun Conference, most strikeout looking. And I cannot wait for this matchup today. So here, just a few hours as we're getting ready for this one, because those 2 guys have been phenomenal pitching. But I tell you, who's been right there with them, guy right up there in your neck of the woods by the name of Max Sherman, guy that's just kind of flown. He's not, I wouldn't say flown under the radar the last couple of years, but just given all the pitchers that's been in the Sun Conference over the last couple of years, he's got names just kind of been floated in and out of conversations. But Max Chardon is having a great, great year, 2.38. And if the bats get going for Florida Memorial, Weber may get all they can handle this weekend with the Lions.
I mean, just on that note from the Lions, we saw them get one off Southeastern. Like that was obviously Southeastern came back and responded in emphatic fashion, but they did that and it kind of shocked some people. I talked to some people on the St. Thomas Bobcats staff, and we were a little taken aback by it. But yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Like the pitching has been the biggest thing for Southeastern, for Weber. And on the flip side, it hasn't really been like that for the rest of the conference. Yes, you have a few players here and there that have done very good seasons. I do think Florida Memorial's pitcher Max Schroeder will be that next one in that order. But for the rest of the conference, it just hasn't felt like it normally is. You know what I mean? Obviously, Kaiser started the season very hot. Avi hasn't really felt like they've gotten things going overall. St. Thomas, same thing, hasn't really gotten going overall. Even though, I mean, we swept the Seahawks, then you turn around and get swept by the Warriors, kind of just puts you in the same position like nothing ever changed. It's tough. It's a tough year in the conference, I feel like, pitching wise. And it's definitely a new thing to look at. But overall, it is going to be Southeastern, it's going to be Weber, and I'm looking forward to that matchup when it starts getting underway.
Yeah, no, I can't really figure out Kaiser or Ave Maria, who I guess are the next two teams there behind Weber and Southeastern. And kind of as you just alluded to, it's Weber and Southeastern, and then it's everybody else this year is what it is. And I think that kind of 3 through 7 there really, yeah,
It's a free
really
for all.
fluid.
It's a free for all.
The sport I would say second most likely to win one. I'll tell you what, I'll flip this. I'm flipping it. So baseball, I'd say, is the second most likely to win a red banner. Let's go back to third most likely. I just kind of did this in my head. Whatever. Hey,
It happens.
whatever.
We'll do it.
Whatever. Third most likely, and I do think it's really close with baseball. I think it's women's lacrosse, Manny. I'll let you kind of talk more on that one, but just seeing Scat on live streams, hearing what some of the Weber players had to say about the bees, I think they're right up there. Kaiser's going to be competitive. Ave is going to be competitive. Life looks really phenomenal. Manny, what are your thoughts? Would you say? I mean, you already said women's lacrosse is going to be one of the sports. The conference has got a good shot of winning red banner in. Who are the teams that can do it and why?
I mean, right now we look at the way the conference ends in two game days left. Today and Saturday might actually be Friday and Saturday. And right now the conference is as tight as it's ever been. I don't know what it is about the Sun Conference this year, whether it was fall, winter, spring, everything is just coming down to almost the last day. Right now the standings go.
Great coaches,
Oh,
great recruiting, great
absolutely.
building of programs.
Absolutely. Right now, the standings go SCAD number one at 4-0, Life at number two, 4-1. Those two teams are obviously locked into the playoffs. And what better way to end the season than a winner take all regular season matchup between those two teams this Saturday at Life? I do think maybe Life might have the advantage here because it's going to be home, but we're talking about two of the best in the conference that are just going to try and battle out for that regular season title. Then you've got Ave Maria in third at 3-2, and Kaiser at 2-2, and then St. Thomas at 2-3. That is pretty much the playoff picture. Again, SCAD and Life are locked in right now to that postseason. Ave, even though they're in third, I wouldn't say they're locked in because there's a few things that can happen. We're definitely going to talk to Coach Sherman about it in a few minutes here, but they're in a safer spot. And then Kaiser St. Thomas pretty much in a battle for the last seed, and they as well will be playing in a win and you're in type of playing situation on Saturday, with Kaiser being the home team. So that's going to be an advantage to the Seahawks for sure. But again, we're talking about a situation where multiple teams are ranked again for the lacrosse scene here in the Sun Conference. SCAD number 2, Life at number 6, Ave Maria is now number 10. Kaiser's in there as well. Weber is receiving votes. Things are just looking so well for this conference when it comes to the lacrosse scene. And again, even though I think people would say SCAD is definitely the team to most likely to win the red banner in this group, you have teams like Life, Ave, and others that if they get hot, if things start rolling their way, they have the talent to do it for sure. If you look at the Sun Conference stats, this is going to be Life and SCAD dominated for the most part, but you've got an Ave Maria in there. You've got a Kaiser Seahawk here. You've got these teams that have good individual talent, and when you put them together with some of those other role players that have had good seasons, that's why I believe they definitely have a chance. One of these teams, the if you told me the field of the Sun Conference versus the field of the rest of the NAIA, I'm taking the field of the Sun Conference 10 out of 10 times and twice on a Sunday.
Manny, I'll say this. The reason why I flipped the two, baseball and women's lacrosse, is because I kind of forgot about Reinhardt and Cumberland's in the sport of women's lacrosse right now, how dominant they've been. Not saying Life, SCAD, Ave, Kaiser can't go beat them, but I just kind of had this thought through myself, like, who's better in their respective sports? The two teams I just mentioned, women's lacrosse, or the teams I mentioned earlier with baseball, LSU Shreve, GGC, LC State, whatever. And I was like, I think it's still, I don't know if if there were betting odds, this would be a lot easier to just kind of be, oh, there you go. But I would assume the Cumberland's Patriots and the Reinhardt Eagles and women's lacrosse would have a little bit better odds to win their respective championship. So that's kind of that was my rationale for flipping the two. You've mentioned that we got some great teams. I think we're definitely going when it gets down to it. I think we're going to have some great teams competing. But when it gets down to it for the flag football championships, Manny, it may come semifinal time and it's nothing but Sun Conference teams. Like that's a very real thing to think. And we just saw Weber be very competitive with the Warner Royals yesterday. And I think Warner's probably the best team in the country. Them and Kaiser are 1 and 1A. Thomas is right there behind them. I'd probably put St. Thomas right there. I think that's a very, very strong likelihood. Obviously, Kansas Wesleyan's going to have something to say about it. Ottawa could have something to say about it. In our own conference, Weber could say something. Maybe even Flomo says something. But I'm looking at it right now and I'm like, dude, if we don't win a red banner this year in flag football, when are we going to?
No, and I completely understand because I was doing my notes and stuff, and I obviously don't know the playoff picture per se. So I just went back to last season to see how many teams made it, and we just go from there. And I realized the conference actually got bigger this year. So the playoff picture might get a little bigger as well. Right now, what I would see, obviously Warner, Kaiser are in. They've not lost a conference game yet. Warner right now sitting, I believe, at 7-0, and Kaiser at 5-0. Then you have Thomas and St. Thomas who are tied at 3-2 apiece. They actually will have a matchup between the two of them on Friday to get sole possession of the third seed. And then Weber would be the next one. I think those are the 4 teams or 5 teams that I know for sure should be in the playoffs. Life is the one that I don't know if is in the picture as the 6th seed or not, because I believe now we're up to about 8 or 9 teams in the conference, something like that. So obviously that all will extend the playoff picture. If Life is a part of it, that also means that Flomo's a part of it because they're only a game behind Life, and they have 2 more conference games while Life only has 1 left, and it's against Kaiser. So there's just so much going on right now in the flag football scene.
I know Life plays Warner as well. So I mean it's 2, but it's still 2 tough ones.
Exactly. So obviously the scene right now in flag football continues to grow, and people want to keep joining the conference because they understand, this is the best conference in flag football. You're going to have a lot of teams. Yes, you're not going to have your Ottawa team, but you're going to have another situation where on any given night, you are going to be playing against top competition. I saw a little bit of the Bobcats Seahawks game this past weekend, and yes, the Seahawks won, but the Bobcats gave them a run for their money. The Bobcats really made them
Yes.
earn it.
Well, I'm saying, bro, like I think all these teams are very competitive. I think we're pretty much I'll say this, it may be too good in the conference. I think that's a real thing because what we're just getting now is like, all right, you're going to play a team 3 or 4 times. How much are these games really mattering right now? If you know you're going to play them in the national tournament, which may sound like an arrogant thing to say, but it's a true statement. Like these are the best teams. Like going through the NAIA football media poll and like do whenever those are getting submitted in, it's like Kaiser or Warner or Kaiser, and then Thomas, and then St. Thomas, and then maybe Kansas Wesleyan or Ottawa, and then Weber's knocking on the door. It's like, come on, like what are we doing? Yeah, Manny. Let's see what else. What else? Oh, so the other sport that we're playing right now is softball. Oh, y'all know I love my softball. Y'all know I love my NAI softball more than anything. It's what has been keeping me kind of away every now and then for some episodes. Man, I do not think we can win a red banner this year. However, there's definitely paths to getting teams in a situation. I think so. There's 4 teams competing for the Sun Conference regular season crown right now. When we get to the tournament, and we'll see who the teams are. I think we're getting a pretty solid picture of who the 6 teams are. Most likely when it's all said and done, I think, now, can have over the next 3 weeks, but I think we're kind of going to be tuned in. Ave Flomo will probably be the 5 and 6. Warner could have something to say. Weber, never know what's going to happen with Weber. They may beat number 18 Coastal Georgia. They may get swept. There's just no telling what Weber is going to do. But we'll just kind of, yeah. We'll talk about that later. However, we do know 4 teams, Manny, that are going to be in the tournament, that are going to be competing and have a legit shot of making the opening round without even winning the Sun Conference. Kaiser, St. Thomas, Southeastern, Coastal Georgia. How many of those teams do I think have a bigger than like 1 to 2% chance to win the Red Banner? I think 2. It's Coastal and Southeastern. Why? They've been there. They've been there to an opening round. I cannot stress the value of experience and how big that is. And while I think St. Thomas and Kaiser are phenomenal teams, what Coach John, Coach JC are doing, they are building championship programs that are probably a year away from reaching that level of going to an opening round, competing for an opening round, winning it, and going to it. Now, am I saying they can't do it? No. I mean, I think we're sending 3 teams to an opening round. I think there will be an odd man out between the 4 teams I just mentioned. And Lord help us if Flomo or Ave go on a crazy run in Clearwater. There's no telling what will happen then. Obviously whoever wins the tournament, they're in. And this regular season, while it is fun and it's going to be fun, Manny, and especially the way the last weekend's going to shape up, it's going to be a lot of fun down the stretch. But ultimately, what's going to matter is who wins it, because then they can just go, we're in. They can be chilling. I think Southeastern, and if it goes the way it's most likely to go, where either Coastal Georgia or Southeastern wins the tournament and they're in, the other one will get in 100%. I would, or 99% sure of that. So let's just say Coastal Georgia wins it, then Southeastern, I think, we get in. And then the argument will be St. Thomas versus Kaiser. St. Thomas is taken 2 of 3. We'll see what happens in the tournament, see if anything like that changes it. And then I think ultimately, let's just say St. Thomas and Kaiser don't play in the tournament and it just ends 2-3 to St. Thomas in the regular season. I think resume wise, they're both fairly similar. Do either team have the strongest strength of schedule? No. They're both going to have a lot of wins, though. And I think they'll get in as a 3, maybe a 4 seed, possibly a 5. That's a possibility with there being so many 5 seed options. I think that will be, I think, more the 8-5 seeds this year. I think you'll see more. Just well, I don't really know because we haven't had these many 5 seeds, but I think a lot of 5 seeds will be filled up by like 3-4 seeds in conference tournaments that win their conference tournament and get an AQ spot, or get the AQ by just making it because they have 2 automatic bids. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's kind of my thought process on it. And then as far as making the World Series, I've kind of already talked about it. I think Southeastern and Coastal Georgia are the teams that are experienced, can make it. And that kind of leads me to maybe start drinking that Southeastern water again. So y'all all know my last year I picked Southeastern to win the World Series. I stuck with that pick all the way up until they got eliminated in the opening round. And that was on NAISB with that prediction. But hey, whatever. Manny, I still stand on if this team starts scoring 6-7 runs again, they can win the World Series. I'll stay with that. Why? They are the best small ball team in America, or in the NAIA. They are the best base stealing team in the NAIA. They have some of the best defense in the NAIA. And they probably still have a top 15, easily top 20 rotation in the NAIA with the freshman pitcher that nobody's seen. A lot of people have seen Claire Sechinger. A lot of people have seen Autumn Hunter. Not many people have seen Miss Freshman Eden Playa. She's nasty. Funky lefty that mixes in just so well with Claire and with Autumn. They're dangerous, man. You're starting to see them get healthy. You're starting to see a big thing with them. The freshmen starting to play like seasoned players. That is a scary, scary thing because, Manny, I'll let you take over here. There's some young players on that Southeastern roster, and they're starting to figure out how to swing a bat. And the rest of NAI softball should be terrified about that right now.
So I'm definitely I definitely agree with everything you just said in the sense of Southeastern and Coastal have to be the ones that are leading the charge in the sense of when we talk about who can get past an opening round situation, who can make a deep run in the tournament. I also understand that the next two teams are Kaiser and St. Thomas. This past weekend, a quick recap. Coastal obviously swept Flint Memorial, obviously swept Weber, Southeastern swept Warner, and St. Thomas beat Kaiser 2-1. Should have been a sweep, but a win is a win. What I learned from this past weekend and what I'm really looking forward to for this weekend, it's about those four teams specifically, and who will win better. St. Thomas, Southeastern, and Coastal all have a chance to sweep their series. If any of them can come out with a sweep while the other two teams or the other team gets 2 wins over one, we talk about the conference tournament, that is going to be massive, because I think the biggest team that needs it is St. Thomas, especially with the fact that Coastal is just about 3 or so weeks away. Like, you can't overlook that. Yes, St. Thomas, to me, I'm gonna give my take on it in this sense. They obviously beat Southeastern at the beginning of the year. Yeah, Southeastern wasn't the same Southeastern that they are now. They have gotten more games under their belt. They've gotten together. Like you said, the freshmen are coming into their own, so to speak. So you can't really put too much into that first win. But at the same time, you can flip that and say, well, St. Thomas has gotten much better than that time as well. St. Thomas has gotten into their flow as well. And Atune continues to just be having an absolutely amazing first year with the Bobcats. Melody has come into her own now in year number 2. The biggest thing for me, and we have, I think, one of the best outfields in the conference when it comes to covering a lot of ground, because what I've seen from Caitlin Martinez, Natalie Kopisova, and Maya Achenbach on a week-to-week basis has really left me in awe. The biggest thing for me is kind of the opposite of what you just said with Southeastern. Southeastern's offense is best in the conference. I have it pulled up right here. They number 1 in hits at 373. The next team is Coastal at 293. Like that there's a gap, and then there's a gap. All right, like that is a big situation that you have to cover for. Now the RBI department is a little different. Southeastern's at 162. You've got Coastal at 167. You've got Ave at 163. You go Kaiser's at 176. Technically, they have the best run bats in offense if you're looking at like that department. But Southeastern will put pressure on you defensively by getting runners on. They're still, like you said, getting better at bringing them in now, because that's obviously the next step. For St. Thomas, that's been the biggest concern for me. And the past 2 weeks, though, they've kind of found some groove here. They've definitely, the Warner series, I credit that now more so to Madeline Morton and doing what she does in the circle, and she just put a lot of pressure on the batters.
That's another element that may come into play down the stretch here. We saw it last year. Remember when Warner went 9-3 and then was the 3rd best team in Clearwater? Yeah, that's starting to be a little prevalent right now. Maybe something to keep an eye on later on.
For sure. So you go from that, and I was kind of curious to see how they played Floma the following weekend. They handled business offensively, and then when they played Kaiser, I thought it was going to be a situation that ended up being the other way. I thought it was the Kaiser offense is going to be, humming and kind of putting pressure on the defense for the Bobcats, and at the same time having the Bobcats have to match the offense. In my opinion, the Bobcats were the ones that were putting the pressure on the Seahawks from game number 1. You know what I mean? They put up 4 quick ones, then they put up 2 against Kaiser in game 2. And I kind of saw game 3 coming the way it was. Kaiser just kept knocking at the door, and eventually the door opened wide. So that's kind of where I leave that last 3rd game there. But that's, for me, the Bobcats, I think, have a good chance, because while experience is such an important thing this year, and I credited it to the entire conference and how good we have been, I also think there's a level of inexperience being a good thing, because you have that mind. As long as you have that mindset of why not us, in the right way, you don't think of it in a situation of, well, we can do it because of so and so, or you're just trying to be overconfident, but you're more of a situation of, we believe we have the tools, we believe we have the coach at the helm, we believe we have the pitching in the circle. Yes, they're not perfect. Yes, they aren't. On paper, you might look at them and say they're the 3rd best team in the conference, and I understand that, but the way they've been playing really has me excited, not just for the national tournament, but specifically for the Sun Conference tournament. If they can go in there and get to that final championship game, I think that boosts them so much. And I think, yes, Coastal will have like you said, let's have Coastal have the automatic bid. If St. Thomas is that next one that they beat in the championship game, Coastal I'm talking about, then I think the Bobcats will get more of a solidified spot than Southeastern, depending on where Southeastern ends up. Because I just think they're going to credit that second team. Well, like you said, the Sun Conference is here when it comes to softball situation. This year we're talking about 3, possibly. I think in a year we could be more about 4. I think in
I
another year,
think I've said this a lot. If you're going to get the Sun Conference, you better get us now. I'm gonna pull out my old Dan Hurley because I got a feeling the next couple of years the Sun Conference is going to be consistently putting 3-4 teams in the top 30, top 35. So the receiving votes to slash top 25, obviously there. I'm gonna give you 2 players. All right, before that, let me say this. I'm looking at it from an aspect when I say get into the World Series, I'm like, all right, let me think of who the teams are that are probably going to be the number 1 overall seeds and who is it possible for these teams to go. Possible, yes, of course, but probable for these teams to go out and play. Obviously, that's something we'll have to talk more about when it comes, because I'll go ahead and tell you. If Coastal, Southeastern, whoever, if they got to go out to like San Antonio and play Our Lady of the Lake or Oklahoma City,
Central Methodist, Oregon
Central
Tech,
Methodist,
Orleans.
like it's gonna be tough. I'll go ahead and tell you, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. But whoever it goes, for Coastal Georgia, I think it just comes down to pitching. Like, will the pitching be able to match whoever they plays pitching? Because that's obviously the first box you got to check before anything else happens. Like, they have a really good lineup, but they don't have like a Southern Oregon lineup or something like that where it's like, okay, wow. And I mean, like Southern Oregon last year, like Coach Georgia doesn't have a this year's Central Methodist lineup. They don't have a this year's Our Lady of the Lake lineup. Just, no kidding. Who does have a lineup that's competitive, and I'm gonna go back to him. I don't care. I don't care for Southeastern. And I'm excited to see him up here at Weber this weekend. So speed wise, your top 3. I mean, listen to this crap. I mean, Chapel Cunningham, 30 for 23. Ella Brooks. Well, let me go back. Chapel Cunningham batting 460 with 30 stolen bases. Ella Brooks, 440 with 30 stolen bases. Riley Sanders, 379 with 34 stolen bases. She's 34 for 34. That's pretty good. So they're going to get on base. They're going to if a walk turns into a double, maybe a triple. I'll tell you who I've been really impressed with. Riley McKinney for Southeastern, 13 doubles. Leah Gonzalez, 10 doubles. Riley's got 3 homers. Leah's got 2 homers. But look, you're looking to just shoot a ball into a gap, get a double. They're scoring. The 3 girls and Sanders, Brooks, and Cunningham. Now that McKinney and Gonzalez, and a big thing with Leah is we know Leah Gonzalez is one of the best bats in the Sun Conference. Like, that's no doubt about it. We've seen it. Her track record speaks for itself. Now you mix McKinney in, and that's another elite bat that kind of serves as a little bit of protection. I'll give you a comparison. Go up to Jessup. Jessup is the best power hitting team in NAIA softball this year. And look, not going to put up there like a Sarah Giles numbers, who's batting 560 with 13 home runs and 25 walks and 4 strikeouts. Ridiculous. But the big reason she's able to have had that kind of year is right behind her. There's a girl named Sam Lors in that lineup, or there's Maddie Ibarra in that lineup. Leah Gonzalez is kind of the comparison there for Southeastern. You have McKinney in there to kind of serve as some protection. Another big thing we're seeing sophomores. Well, first I'll say another one before we talk about those 2 sophomores. Another, I believe, let me just double check. Freshman. Let me just pull this up. Great podcasting, but I'm just like 99% sure Haley Brooks is a freshman. Yeah. Haley Brooks, a freshman, batting 330, 5 doubles, 18 RBI. She's 19 for 19 stealing bags too. So that's some good speed in the lineup as well. But 2 sophomores who are having good seasons, right there, the 310 and 315 mark for Nicole Wasserstorm, who's phenomenal glove, and then Lauren Seckinger, phenomenal glove. But those 2, they're starting to get some extra base hits. They're starting, mostly Nicole, but like they're starting to hit the ball well. And if you have that protection in the lineup, who's able to do some stuff behind the big bats of Gonzalez, McKinney, and maybe even Brooks, you mix in there to kind of restart that lineup speed-wise after that. Now you're talking about an elite lineup that when you pair it with the pitching, which we've already talked about, I mean, 3 pitchers with a 2.0 or less ERA, and Eden, Autumn, and Claire, it's scary. Now I get at points this year, Claire and Autumn haven't had the best performances here and there, but we've also seen throughout the season, oh, yeah, there's the Claire Seconder from 2 years ago. There's the Autumn Hunter we've seen all year, which I don't have any doubt we'll see come postseason time. And then say there is the scouting report on those two because they've thrown so many innings over the last 2.5, 3 and a half years. Here's a freshman who good luck trying to scout that when you're trying to scout Autumn and Claire because Eden's just a whole different pitcher, which like I've already said mixes in so well. And then of course the underlying thing and something I wish I had more than just stats to go on, but I mean still they're a 97% fielding team. Um, like I've got red and black all over the place right now, but I'm just looking at the Southeastern Fire team. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid again on them. I said I wouldn't. Manny, I said I wouldn't. During the preseason, I was like, I'm not going to drink the Southeastern Kool-Aid this year. I'm not going to do it. But I'm an analytical guy. I'm a stats guy. I'm a numbers guy. And look at the last 2 years. There's always at least one team, sometimes two, always a team who is nobody thinks will make it to Columbus, and then bam, they're a 10 seed and they do something. Last year it was the Midland Warriors, who were a receiving votes team, go down to Oklahoma City, make in the opening round, make the World Series. 2 years ago it was the Weber Warriors. I think this year it could be the Southeastern Fire in that category. I know it's not. It's a different route. And again, I think it'd be extremely tough for them if they go up and play like a Cumberland's Patriots, which I think is a very likely place for them to go, assuming that the Pats get an opening round or are an opening round team. Excuse me, are an opening round host team. If Cumberland's doesn't make the opening round, I don't know, something to maybe that moon did do something. But yeah, we'll see. But I'm just saying, I'm back in. I see a path. And look, I may come on here a week from now and like let me see them with my own eyes again, just to make sure I'm still still agreeing with that, and see what they do against Weber, and what Weber shows up this weekend will be a big factor in kind of how I'm feeling after this weekend. Because I mean, if Southeastern just goes out and kills Weber and Weber has 13 errors, nothing was gained knowledge wise for me to come back on here. It just kind of is what it is. But if the Weber that we've seen beat Kaiser, the Weber that we've seen beat Coastal Georgia comes out, and Southeastern still goes out there and punches Weber in the mouth, then it's going to be all right. I see it again. I just talk about my team, Manny Weber. I don't know. Whichever one shows up. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know. Weber would fit in perfectly with men's basketball from this past fall. You just you get what I'm saying. Like that, you never know what's going to happen. Like just about every team in men's basketball this past year. But for Weber, I mean, look, we've seen them beat. They're still 2-2 against top 25 teams. They say that is a fact. Top 20 teams at that 16 I think 17 and 18 is where yes, Indiana Wesleyan 17, Coastal's 18, beat a really good Kaiser team who I think is opening round quality. But we've also seen not so great performances from them, so we'll see. I don't know. I will say this: if Weber beats Southeastern this weekend or does something, I think then it's kind of like, all right, maybe we gotta
break. And I mean, to be fair, like you said, in a week's time, Southeastern Coastal at Coastal will be a thing, and that'll be also a barometer as well.
Yeah.
We have these key series circled. I think after that, the next big one would probably be STU and Coastal. Yeah, that'll be the next one, because after that'll be pretty much the end of the season. We only got about, counting this weekend, 3 weekends left. So we've seen St. Thomas Kaiser, we've seen Southeastern St. Thomas, we've seen Southeastern Kaiser, and there's just 2 more left that we really need to see how these teams all match up. And then once that final weekend ends, things really get going in Clearwater, and I'm gonna be excited. I'm gonna be excited for sure to see how everything plays out here.
All right. So, man, you got anything else?
Like we said, softball is looking like basketball. I don't know what's gonna happen. What's gonna 3 teams tied after halfway through at 9-3, and then Southeastern right there behind them, just like nipping at everybody's heels. It's just a little. It's so much fun. Or excuse me, Kaiser right there nipping at everybody's heel. So much fun. So much fun. And I do want to shout out, because we didn't mention them, and because the Bobcats are going to play them this weekend. Ave Maria, 4 in a row right now.
Yes.
Getting going. They're putting on some pressure. Warner 4-8. They're both tying. You know what I'm saying? Florida Memorial, that was big, not getting swept by the Bobcats to keep their season alive. for the most part. They gave Coastal Georgia a little bit of run for their money in those first 2 games. I know how the last game went, but technically they were right there in those first two. So the conference, again, we know who the big dogs are. We know who the teams to beat are, but we've got 3 teams after them. And again, like you said, the Warriors are another one. Don't let them be they might not make the conference tournament or anything like that, but they can definitely be a little bit of a spoiler. Now you look back, you're like, we shouldn't have lost to Weber, or we shouldn't have done this. But the back end of the conference is just as dangerous and deadly when it comes to postseason time as the top end is.
Manny, just real quick, do you have time this afternoon for that interview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So you good? Anything else you want to add on?
Let's do it.
All right. Yeah, great weekend. Like Manny said, big weekend coming up, all sports. Beach volleyball, though. Yes. So Weber again, Dynasty, three-peat.
Repeat. Repeat. This is what they do, man. 1, 2, 3. They did it. They improved to 14-8 overall. They've got that automatic bid. April 25th through the 27th will be the NAIA National Invitational. It'll be taking place in Greenville, Tennessee. Weber's made it. Ave is the team that they beat in the championship game. We are pretty confident saying that Ave will get in that large qualifying.
Yeah.
But yes, Weber Warriors, they keep on moving on. Going through, they beat the Gyrenes, obviously. They defeated St. Andrews 3-0, Loyola New Orleans 3-2. Semifinals, William Carey 3-0. They were just doing what they need to do, and now they've done it again.
Three in a row. It's a three-peat, brother. A three-peat for the Warriors.
Special players make special plays.
Yes, sir. All right. All right. Without further ado, kick it over now. Coach Sherman, Ave Maria Women's Lacrosse. Hope y'all enjoyed that interview and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay, we welcome on a very special guest. Is Coach Caitlin Sherman of Ave Maria Women's Lacrosse. Coach Sherman, how we doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on today.
Of course, Manny and I are super, super excited to have you on, getting here towards the end of the regular season for women's lacrosse and the Sun Conference. We just talked a good bit about it in the episode, but dramatic ending to the season as we're coming down the stretch here. SCAD versus Life, then St. Thomas versus Kaiser battling for the last spot in the tournament while y'all are kind of sitting there in the middle. Just talk to us a little bit about what it's been like coaching this season and being right up there at the top competing for the Sun Conference this year.
Yeah, so in my second year here, definitely kind of just building a foundation. And obviously a huge improvement from last year. I have some really great freshmen on the team, and I think this team is really special. It's definitely one of the most talented teams in program history. And it's been really exciting to coach and kind of seeing us compete for that, seeding in the Sun Conference tournament, but also, competing for, an at-large or, the possibility of getting an AQ to the national tournament. It's been a really great group to coach, really fun lacrosse, and just seeing their lacrosse IQs grow from even last year, from the beginning of, February to now too, has been awesome and very exciting to kind of see it continue in postseason.
The AQ process is definitely a confusing one, like through all sports of the NAIA, and trying to keep, all right, this is how it's done in football, this is how it's done in soccer, this is how it's done in softball. Can you tell us a little bit about the AQ process in women's lacrosse?
Yeah, so there are 5 conferences and there's 5 AQs. So there's 5 automatic qualifiers for the conference winners. So we have the KCAC, the Heart, the AAC, the Sun, and the WAC. And then there are 3 at-large. So only 8 total field for the tournament. Out of 37 teams. So then they kind of go into a national selection committee to select those 3 next at-larges.
That's tough. That's got to be some tough meetings. Manny, you want to be in any meeting like that?
I'm good. I cannot really imagine myself in those situations.
It gets very tight. We have all this criteria, and it goes down to tiebreakers and just a lot of stats, a lot of just conversation. And a lot of it can be, subjective, like strength of schedule. Just we don't have the formulas yet, in lacrosse where it's like a number pattern or anything like that.
It's interesting. It's sorry, Manny. I know you got questions. Just kind of while we're on this topic of kind of postseason, I wonder if lacrosse, men's and women's, there's no like computer generated, no like number system or anything like that, like how baseball has kind of like the bow chip ratings. There's nothing like that, correct?
No, it's honestly just the standings.
Right.
So records and goal against, goals differential, right. And obviously the new NAIA coaches polls are just strictly media polls and not used anymore for national selection.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same with softball. I mean,
Right.
obviously, sport I know pretty well. It's the softball just there's no objective like number ratings for it.
Exactly.
I think it'd be something interesting to see it come into play in the
Right.
NAIA coming up soon.
Hmm.
No, for sure. And speaking of the seedings, you did have a win against my Bobcats. It was a pretty big one over the weekend, and it definitely helps in your situation because even though we know the top two teams are going to be in the conference for the tournament, and then Kaiser and St. Thomas are battling for that last spot, you guys are kind of in that third seeding, and you wouldn't necessarily be out of the waters. You're not in a situation where you got to play in, obviously, but you still do have a tough matchup this weekend against Weber. So my question is, before the game against my Bobcats, was there any thought on trying to put yourselves in the best position? And then what is the thought process that you're telling your team going into this next matchup against Weber?
Right. Obviously, so huge win against Kaiser. For us that was huge. First win, in 7 years against them. Last time we beat them, I was on the field. So it was a long time. And I think going into a tough St. Thomas team and seeing their growth. Being a second year program, they fought. It was 8-6 at half, and we just continued to execute. But I think going into that game, we knew it was going to be a fight. We know their team, and the culture that coach is building is just fighting for it, right? They're new, but they're not giving up, and they don't use the excuse that young, inexperienced, like they'll still fight. And I think going into that game, we just had to really, really execute just to kind of give us that extra buffer too, because as you said, Kaiser and St. Thomas are kind of battling for that. Now, if all goes well, and everyone, so like us, Kaiser, and Life, if we all beat kind of everyone below us. So if Kaiser beats Weber tonight, and I believe they play St. Thomas on Saturday, then it'll kind of put us all into a three-way tie. And so that'll be very interesting how that's broken. I believe it comes down to goal differential against SCAD. So we'll just kind of see how that plays out. But I think going into Saturday, like last year, it was the game that kicked us out of the tournament. We lost 13-11. So I think just the girls really want it, but also, we know that they're, tough and talented in this conference, honestly, anyone's day, anyone's showing up. Like, St. Thomas went and beat Weber, and it's really just who's showing up and who, is going to play, and show out that day. So we just kind of have the mentality that, every day is a fight. We have to play our best. We have to be good teammates and, just execute.
Is this coming down to kind of being one of the crazier Sun Conference endings both your playing and in your coaching days at Ave Maria?
Oh yeah. So the Sun Conference for lacrosse is, this is their second year. So we were in the Mid South, we were independent. So definitely compared to last year, like we can just see this kind of keep growing. A similar pattern where it's going to be anyone's day. Like everyone's going to kind of be around the same depth, which is really awesome because it gives us an opportunity just like to compete at the high level and prepare us for those postseason plays and prepare us, for nationals if, teams end up going. I think we're lucky to be in a competitive conference, but also, it's tough mentally just to, keep fighting. We never know. Just because this opponent lost to this opponent doesn't mean that it's, in the bag or secured.
So before the official Sun Conference lacrosse started, and the competition was like the Sun division of the Mid South, kind of similar to football was in 2021 and before.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
For the longest of time, the beginning of women's lacrosse, it was the NWLL. So before the NAIA sponsored it, then we became an invitational sport. And so like Kaiser, us, SCAD, we were all in an independent conference from about 2015 or 16, 17, and 18. Then 2019, the Mid South sponsored, with Life adding, Cumberland's adding. So that was like Marion, Indianapolis was in our conference. It was, stretched across the country. And then finally last year was the first year of, having the Sun Conference with St. Thomas and Warner adding. And then next year we'll add New College of Florida.
Phenomenal. Love seeing the growth of the league, the growth of the conference. Let's talk a little bit about the game at the NAIA level. So obviously the breaking up and having now 5 conferences is big, and hopefully we'll continue to see the game grow. I had the opportunity to be able to talk to Heart of America conference at Media Day with them, which was a lot of fun, kind of talking to different parts of the country of lacrosse. But for you, I mean, looking at your playing days, you're obviously a phenomenal player, and we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. So recent as well. We'll talk about, but just from you as a player standpoint, when you were playing in the Sun Division of the Mid South, how has the NAI changed from then to when you were doing some assistant coaching across the country, and now and here in 2024, when it seems like not only NAI lacrosse continues to grow, but women's sports in general, especially at the collegiate level, is gaining popularity and gaining growth.
Right. No, and that's a great question. I think the biggest thing, when I first started playing, back in 2015, 16 was my freshman year. A lot of people just didn't know what the NAI was, in general. I think the NAI and, across all sports have grown so much, but specifically women's lacrosse, like it was, a few teams here and there. We were invitational. People misconstrued us as a club, whether that be like high school coaches or high school club coaches. They're like, oh, it's just club, it's just club. And I think a lot of us coaches in the NAI and players, kind of trailblazed back then just to be like, no, this is, competitive. It is competitive. We're varsity. We're fully sponsored. There are scholarships available. And I think that was a huge eye opening to a lot of clubs and a lot of kind of different like high school programs as well. And then, obviously as I left the NAI scene for 2 years just to the Division III scene. But then, I kind of love the NAI just because I think it is undervalued. I think it's misrepresented. I think there's so much talent, across the board. Like we are competing for national championships across the board. We have athletes that have come from NCAAs. We've beaten NCAAs. It's not really about the level. I think it's just about what, a student athlete wants in their experience as well. And I think that's huge. The NAI offers just, like a lot more just, flexibility with, the academics and the athletics, but also offering that high competition and scholarships, and I think if that's what, an athlete wants, that's what they should look for. But I think in general with women's lacrosse, it's just like the talent has grown so much. I think through the work of our coaches that have been coaching the NAI for a long time, and just really continuing to push, I think consistency in the women's lacrosse world really helps its growth. It can be a revolving door of coaches, but those coaches that have stayed, 5, 6, 7 years at their programs, those are the ones that are at the top of the polls, and they've built, a presence to the other, divisions, other college coaches as well.
Yeah, I don't want to keep going directly back to the sport of softball, but just the sport I know well with it. And I look at coaches like Phil McSpadden in Oklahoma City, who's been there 30 plus years, Jaden Wallace, Jake Cant. I mean, on and on and on and on. Mike Minnick in our conference, who's been there 11, 12. I think this year 11 for him. But seeing that at the softball level is like you can see a path where it's like women's sport in the NAI and where women's lacrosse is now. Obviously, there's not 197 teams like there are in softball, but you're getting there. You can see the growth and the development in the early years. I think it's very exciting, and you're seeing it on the men's side as well. I mean, I get the privilege of being at one of the best men's lacrosse teams in the country here at Weber, and it is fun getting out there. I'll say this: there are some of those teams that come like when it's like Reinhardt or Kaiser. Them games get rowdy. They're fun. They're fun to be at, and women's lacrosse right there with it. It's a lot of fun.
No, yeah, for sure. And we were going to talk about this a little bit. So prior to your coaching at Ave, you were a 4-time All-Sun player, and 2017 you were a second team NAI All-American. I'm just kind of curious, who on your team reminds you of yourself when you used to play back in the day?
Yeah, I saw that question, and it's funny. I was thinking about it last night, and I think it's a combination of a couple players, just because like first of all, I'm a lefty, so no one plays the same position as me because we don't have a lefty on the team. But I think in general style of play, one of our girls, Claire Chniowski, she plays down low. Increased roles, kind of, just keeps that rotation down low, and that's kind of where I played, just on the left side. But I think, another really great, just like leader, Abby Seiler. She's been, she kind of reminds me of myself, just being a leader on the team, like always just putting 100% in, and I think that her style of just like wanting to be here, wanting to make her teammates better ultimately, definitely remind me of just like kind of my vision when I was a student athlete, and that's what I wanted to do was, make everyone around me better, and that's something that, Abigail Seiler does very well.
And just looking at you as a player overall, you've continued to have phenomenal success post college. A couple years ago, 2022, you got to play for Team China in the 2022 World Lacrosse Women's Championship. You even got to score a goal for China in the platinum bracket victory win over South Korea. So tell us about that experience. I mean, that's got to just be so awesome to be able to go there, represent Team China in the one of the highest stages of women's lacrosse.
Yeah, so it's funny. I actually originally, I was their media man, so I did the photography, videos, interviews, and I was on the reserves just in case, COVID popped up. It was still, a risk just bringing everyone from around the world together in one spot. And unfortunately, a couple of our girls tested positive, so they're like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Sure." And so they threw me a jersey, and it was just like the whole experience in general, just outside of the game itself was incredible. I think seeing like you said, women's lacrosse at the highest stage, and seeing all these people come from all different cultures, backgrounds, like coming together to play one sport was like really awesome. It's like we all like shared the campus of Towson, and whether it's going to the cafeteria would be like eating next to like Team USA or Team Latvia, and it's just like it's so cool to see us all kind of there for the same common kind of goal to grow the game, to play the game we love, but also just learn, and chat with people from all different cultures. It was definitely an experience of a lifetime for sure.
It's awesome.
No, for sure. And 2022, again, that was also the year that you started your coaching career here or there at Ave Maria. What was the vision that you had when you took over the program, and how has that changed? How do you think that has come to fruition in just 2 short years?
Yeah, so obviously, being familiar with the program, as a player, it definitely helped. But also knowing that like I'm coming back to a program that, I love, I played for, but in this whole different role. I think for me it was, I was a third coach in 3 years. There was, a good amount of turnover after I graduated. I think I was really excited to bring stability. As I mentioned before, the consistency and stability can really help grow a program at the NAIA level for women's lacrosse. And I think I wanted to come in, looking for that conference championship, looking for, getting, a bid to the national championship, and eventually, searching to win a national championship has definitely been on my mind. And I know it takes work, takes time, culture building. And I think the biggest thing is like coming in and being like, this is what we are at Ave Maria Lacrosse. And, if, you're not on board, we need to evaluate that. Because I think the biggest thing was bringing in, a strong culture. Yes, talent, but talent's not going to go anywhere without a good culture. And I think that was a huge emphasis for us is like, okay, this is how things are going to be done here, and if I want you on board, but I need you to, say yes, essentially.
Right.
Say yes to the process, and, believing in myself, believing in the team, and I've seen that grown from last year to this year. I think just getting the buy-in and, finally recruiting girls, that I've recruited, is really exciting just because, it's finally becoming my program after a few years of these are girls that I'm, choosing to bring in. And I think just kind of reworking the whole culture of just, commitment, wanting it, and, wanting to play for, something bigger.
Coach, talk about some of the girls that have come in and really helped with the culture. Look, just numbers wise, I look at a girl like Abigail Sealer, sixth in the conference, with 43 goals, 3.07 goals per game, phenomenal, according to the Sun Conference website. Is that her, is she one of those, or maybe some others that you could talk about them, their play on the turf or on the grass, sure, but that like you said, I love. I'm not trying to tell coaches that they like I like hearing this or anything, but like I love hearing a coach when they come on, they genuinely mean a culture, especially someone like you that's early on. I think that's an early indicator for success in a program when you're not just trying to look at a team, and maybe the team chemistry, I guess, could be thrown in this as well. But when you talk about building an overall program and a program standard and a culture, just I guess my final question of this is who are the girls that are doing that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned earlier, Abigail Seiler, she's just been a constant leader. She's a captain for us. I'm going to be a rising senior. She gets things done just, on the field, obviously, according to stats, but also off the field. She holds her teammates accountable. She's getting the things done in the classroom. She's showing up. And just kind of working hard. She never complains. She tries to lift others up, and, she works like a dog out there. So, plays a lot of minutes, basically every minute of every game. And I think it just shows a testament of like her commitment to what I'm doing, what I'm building for the program. And she holds herself accountable well. And that's, a player that a coach loves to coach. And, I think also the freshmen we brought in, Alexander Mazurchek, Lily Hines, they've both been, forces on the field for us, young, but, so much potential and have been, starting off that potential here, I know they have so much more to build upon. And I'm really excited to have them for the next 3 seasons. And they just bring this energy, fresh energy to the team, and, they want it, and, they're excited to learn and just show up every day as well.
Love it.
No, for sure. I mean, I want to ask this question because we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs coming up, and how last year ended, and how that's how that fueled you guys this year. But I really want to know, for those people who aren't maybe watching women's lacrosse like they should, and with conference playoffs right around the corner, what would be your pitch? What would you, if you got 10 minutes, a PowerPoint, whatever it is, how would you tell them, look, this is why you need to be watching this sport, because it's coming very, very soon down the pipe in excitement and electricity and just overall fan energy?
Yeah, I think in general, like women's lacrosse, is growing so rapidly. Lacrosse was one of the fastest growing sports these past few years, and I think with female sports on the rise too, I think it's no brainer just to come out and like kind of see the game for itself. A lot of people just don't have the knowledge of the game, and that's acceptable. They're like, oh, why is the ref blowing the whistle now, or what happened there? Because it's a lot of signals, a lot of rule changes in our game. But I think the best thing is it is fast paced. It's fast paced, and it is a contact sport. I know we're not padded up like the men. The men get a little more, football like, can have the 6-foot poles and absolutely beat each other. But I do think, for women's lacrosse, it's just like so cool to see these athletes, excel. And, it's an exciting time in our game where it's just growing at all divisions. And, I think it's cool because people can kind of witness a piece of history of just, the game, just it's just taken off. So that'd be my small pitch.
I think you definitely
I'll
have
tell you my
something for
pitch.
sure.
My pitch right now to anybody out there that's looking to, that's seeing what I've done with the help of Manny, Josh, Joe, other people with Suncast, along with the NAIA. Tell you, there's a big market out there for lacrosse right now, both the men's and the women's side. I've seen some pages, some social medias, which are good, like phenomenal way of growing the game. There's a new one for the men's, I think, that's doing a really, really good job. I don't know if they do much for women's or not. I haven't seen much on the page, but
Oh, the NAIA
if I,
lacks.
if I were somebody looking to start something, I would look heavily into, because hey, how many, there's what, 37, 38 teams in NAIA women's lacrosse,
Yeah.
and about the same, maybe a little bit more on the men's side.
Yeah, I think there's a little less on them, or a little around the same, or a little less, because I know they're still invitational.
So about 80, 90 overall teams,
Right.
about, give or take. I mean, NAISB, there's 100. Like, I'm looking at the other sports that have it: football, softball, baseball, that have kind of that brand, that
Following.
podcast, I guess, or,
Yeah.
or
Right.
whatever, doing it, that have a lot more teams than just that. If there was somebody wanting to do that, I would highly recommend looking into it.
Yeah.
It's not something I can add onto my plate right now, Lord knows, but if somebody was looking to do it and was looking for any advice on how to get started, how to start contacting coaches to get on or anything, I'd be more than happy to be able to do it, because I mean, heck, it's going to help grow ultimately Sun Conference Women's Lacrosse, which big fan, love it. So, eventually maybe Sun Conference Men's Lacrosse, maybe some other teams start adding some teams.
Maybe.
we
maybe.
can get there. But hey, like, seriously, all jokes aside, if that's something that anybody listening to this is interested in, or knows somebody that'd be interested in, please, if you go to, just contact us on our social media, or contact Coach Sherman, and she can get in contact with me. It's something I'd be very, very interested in trying to help somebody else get started. But I mean, what do you think, Coach? I think it'd be a pretty successful platform.
Yeah, I think, in general with like, lacrosse, like we want that media, right? We want the
Right.
exposure, and it's so new where, you have people like, oh, what is this? Kind of buying into it. And now it's kind of the time because, there are a couple of accounts floating around. I know one's doing a great job on Instagram for the men's side, and AI Lacrosse, I got a great brand and graphics going.
Yep.
I saw that and I'm like, someone needs to do that for the women's side. And it's really great. And I actually, I wrote a little bit for Lacrosse All Stars just a couple years ago, recapping NAI championships, just trying to push some media out there. I also help kind of run the NAIW Lacrosse Instagram and Twitter as well, but that's mostly just to promote. We kind of just repost and reshare. But I think it'd be really like you said, like if someone wants to take on that task of just like doing game of the day or updating scores like you guys do for the Sun. I think it's a great place to start and get it on your resume because I think it would take off.
Yeah, I right there with you. I mean, like obviously love what's happened with Suncast. Manny's had experience with it. And then on the NAISB side thing, it's been a great way to. I think a big thing that that I've heard from coaches with just from covering NAI softball is it's now they can hear what's going on in Oregon, they can hear what's going on in Texas, they can hear what's going on in Oklahoma. And for y'all, I mean, look, y'all are busy, but if there was like an hour twice a week that came out, or even an hour once a week, where somebody came on and was talking about, all right, here's the matchups in the Mid South, here's the matchups in the Heart, here's the matchups in the
Yeah.
KCAC, and boom, 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 and you're hearing stats. As long as
Right.
it's accurate and well represented and unbiased, I think it's something that'd be really beneficial. But hey, just try, anybody listening, y'all know what to do with that information now. Getting back to it though, Coach, we were just talking about playoffs last season. Tough ending, just missed out on making a postseason run. Just talk to us about how that's obviously fueled the fire for your team wanting to get back there and make the most of the opportunity.
Yeah, so obviously, we're really excited to play Saturday. We know it's going to be a tough battle. They're a great Weber team, and we're just kind of excited to, have that chance of, a great, seeding, if all goes well tonight too with the Kaiser and Weber Warriors as well. But we're, the girls want it. They're excited to kind of, we lost last year. We fell short by 2 goals, and it hurts. At the end of the day, it did. But I think they're excited and to, really show kind of the Sun Conference and just like, NAI Women's Lacrosse, what we have to offer to the table. And, we've played a very tough schedule right from the start. We started off with Cumberland's, who's now number 2 in the nation, and kind of hit a lot of ranked opponents in our schedule. We played number 1, Lawrence Tech, when they were number 1. And, we've just been, hitting it hard. And, at the end of the day, like a couple of them were very close losses, but, we know they make us better for moments like this in the end of season. We have to really kind of dig deep and, fight hard against a great Weber team.
Yeah, for sure. And then we're gonna end this with this last question here. And again, just kind of the topic of the growth of not just the sport, but specifically the conference. Last year at the end of the regular season, the conference had 5 teams ranked. Kaiser was number 1, SCAD was at 5, Life was 6, you all were at 10, and Weber was receiving votes. This season, you got one more coaches poll left, but the regular season is pretty much done, and we have 4 teams in the top 10, including you guys again, and 2 more receiving votes. What is it like on a game-to-game basis, understanding that there are no off days, there are no situations where it's going to be an easy one? You even said earlier that you can just count it as a win. And how does that help you guys, not just for conference postseason, but that national run you're hoping to go on?
Yeah, and like I said, we're super strong. I mean, 6 out of 7 of our teams are, nationally ranked, and to have that is just it's great for the growth. It's crazy that that's what our conference is, especially just compared to some other conferences out there where they have the top teams, but then other teams aren't even receiving votes. And I think at the end of the day, it does prep us. It preps us hard because we're just playing the highest level teams in our league. We have to and we end the season with that. And I think the biggest thing is with SCAD number 4, Kaiser number 6, Life number 8. We're number 10 right now, and then obviously Weber and St. Thomas both receiving votes. It's it's a battle. Every 4 quarters, it can change like that. Momentum. It's a huge game of momentum. Women's lacrosse, especially when you have the top talented teams competing against each other for an actual conference, seeding and a place in our tournament. Only letting 4 go. It's and 6 of us are nationally ranked. It's tough. Because we do see that the other teams, in any other conference, they'd easily make their conference tournament. And I think that just shows a testament to how strong the Sun is. But, I think it just at the end of the day, it prepares us to be our best, and prevents us from playing down to, lower level. And it allows us to achieve the highest potential that we have. So
Be the best, you got to beat the best, right, Coach?
Yep. It's true.
Coach, one more thing before we send the folks on to the weekend. You do a phenomenal job with some photography and videography for Ave Maria Athletics. What's your Instagram page so everybody could go find that and follow that?
A shameless plug. I knew you were gonna do something like that. Yeah, so I picked up photography in my college days, and I kind of like I love sports, so I love going to all the events anyway. So I was like, why not just take photos? And I wanted to give the athletes photos too, because at the end of the day, like as a student athlete, it's always awesome to have photos of you and playing and just to remember. Parents love it, of course. And I think the biggest thing for me is just like I love just doing it because it's one of my biggest passions besides coaching. But it's Sherman photo _. So if you want to check it out, feel free. And it's just really exciting to be able to, contribute to the media of like different schools I've been at and different athletes. I just, it's really rewarding to see them, excited about photos of them playing the sport they love too.
Of course. Well, hey, Coach, take it easy on my Warriors this weekend, but best of luck rest of the
Are you gonna be
season.
there?
It's
Oh,
let's
sorry.
see. Yeah, we don't have. I'll be around. Y'all are coming to us, right? Or are y'all coming?
Yeah, I think we play at 4, and I think the men play before. Kaiser and Weber play before us.
Yeah, in that game. Where's the game at again?
Weber.
It's at Weber. Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
around. I'll be over at softball. We play Southeastern softball same
nice.
day, so I'll be over there. So, but I'll come by. Definitely say hey. Yeah, I'll be around. I usually I usually hang around Babson Park a fair amount.
Yeah, it should be a great game. So yeah, looking forward to
That's gonna
seeing
be a
you.
lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right. Well, Coach Sherman, Manny, great job as always. Coach Sherman, thank you so much. And yeah, everybody listening, thank you again. Great episode. New YouTube, new to the YouTube. Y'all go subscribe. Brand new YouTube is what, episode 2 on the YouTube, Manny?
3.
Three on the YouTube. So go check that out, subscribe. And yeah, y'all have a great weekend. We'll be back next week.
Well, thanks for having me.